Hey YouTube, now we come to the last OTT deck that I have out of the 4 that I have. So there's Witches, which is also known as Soulless build. There's the Soul build, Susano, there and whatever. Like in my case, Amaterasu. Then there was Battle Sisters, and then now there's Magus. So Magus is arguably the most fun to play as and also play against, although it does a little bit feel like a weird solitaire style deck because the opponent doesn't have a whole lot of interaction on your turn when you're doing all this looking at the top deck. It's kind of annoying, but it's really the most fun, and I think it's one of the best ones out there that doesn't necessarily have to rely on Silent Tom, although you can put Silent Tom in here. I feel like it is better as pure Magus. It's just more fun. But again, I guess if you want to make it competitive, you can run Silent Tom, but then you're going to have to run, well, yeah, you can run Silent Tom. But this deck is more of like a strictly Magus pure deck. So let's get right into it. So, first grade 3, I am running 4 Pentagonal Magus. Pentagonal Magus was the promo that came out when Mystical Magus came out, for those that are wondering when this card came out. So back then, it was, I think, like you go to the sneak peek and you got this card for participating. So this one it got reprinted as a secret rare in set 5, but good luck trying to find that. Bushiroad really needs to do a better job of reprinting older cards. So Pentagonal Magus is arguably the best grade 3. In playtesting the deck, I tried like all the different grade 3s. Pentagonal is definitely the best one because it gains 5k to critical, and there's lots of ways to know what card is going to be on the top of the deck. So yeah, it's a good fallback if you cannot stride that turn. Next, I am running 3 Floral Magus. Floral Magus is probably the second best one. The Break Ride I'm not actually running because I feel like the Break Ride isn't really needed in here. Because you do want to try to focus more on your stride play with Globe Magus, which I do run, of course, and then if you're not gonna be able to stride, you are not gonna be break riding because first of all, I don't run the stride fodder in here or the stride enabler grade 1, and second of all, the break ride is just too slow and it doesn't really generate too much of an advantage for you. Next, 2 Ring Magus. She's the new common grade 3 that has Vanguard or Rear Guard effect. It's not GB restricted, I like that about it, so I am running 2 copies of it. It is a decent card. I've called it down as a Rear Guard like probably twice out of maybe 5 games or 7 games. Most of the time I'll just use it as stride fodder, and this thing will also be stride fodder as well as extra copies of this. So 9 grade 3s, because I feel like 9 grade 3s, I know in a lot of tournament level decks, you would typically run no more than 8. But I feel like for most decks, especially if you do not want to run stride fodder and you want to stride a decent number of times, I feel like 9 grade 3 and 13 grade 1, 11 grade 2 is the most optimal mathematically. There are like blogs out there that actually prove that, but anyway, that's getting too far off track. For grade 2s, 4 Stellar Magus. This card is really hard to find now. So again, that's why I strongly recommend holding onto your cards and not getting rid of them unless you are just never going to play the clan ever again. So yeah, 4 Stellar Magus. It's probably one of the best grade 2s, so definitely run as many copies of it as you can. So I'm running 4. Next, 3 Rhombus Magus. This is a new grade 2 from set 5. This is probably like the best common card that they got besides their new starter. So this can potentially hit 21k very easily on a lot of turns, especially on the stride turn. So that's why I'm running 3 of it. Not exactly 4 of it because there are some rare turns where you won't be able to use the effect, or you won't be able to guess the card ahead of time. You will have to just do like a blind guess. And also because I wanted to try some different Magus cards in here as well. So next, 2 Brulette Magus. She's really good if you do not know the card ahead of time, you don't want to blind guess, and if you don't have a Stellar Magus for whatever reason, you can Or, I mean, you can even combo Stellar with her, which is like an old classic play with this deck. But Brulette can basically set up the top card so you know what it is. You Soul Blast 1, you draw a card, and then you put her on the top of the deck. So she becomes the card like Rhombus that can declare it, Stellar can declare it, and then get her back to the hand. So it functions as a draw card in that way. Next, to Cooler Magus. Cooler Magus is the 12k for Magus. So originally I was running 4 of her and 3 of this, but with the new Rhombus Magus, I needed to find space for her. So I dropped her to 2 and dropped Brulette to 2 from 3, and then brought in 3 Rhombus. So that's basically what I did for the grade 2 lineup. In playtesting it, I think it works fine the way it is. Because of all the top deck checking, you can run a lot of different diverse Magus cards just to confuse the opponent even more with all the different names. So for grade 1s, 4 Tetra Magus, probably the best looking Perfect Guard that OTT has. 3 Crescent Magus. 3 is a good number. A lot of people like to run 4. You can run 4, that's fine. 3 I feel is enough for a 6k. But you will always try to, you can use her to blind guess. So she's really good with like Pentagonal Magus as a 9k boost. And also if you're running Silent Tom in here, you definitely need to run like 3 or 4 of her, probably 4 of her. If you want Silent Tom to be able to hit proper column number. So I guess that's worth mentioning. And then 2 Cone Magus. She's another new card that they got in set 5. So she, no more than 2 copies of her. Basically all she does is when she's placed on VRR, you can declare the card, the top card of the deck, and if you guess it right, you reveal it. You guess it right, you get to counter charge 2. So it's kind of like an unflipped card, but I like that it's a 7k. So 2 copies is a good number, I guess, or I would say. Then 2 Circle Magus. This card is good if you do not have a way of looking at the top card ahead of time, first of all. And you do not want to blind guess. So it works really good with Stellar, so you can like play this on main phase, look at the top card. If it's not a trigger or something, then you can use Stellar to call the card when she attacks to add it to your hand. So you can get that out of the way. So Circle Magus I feel is still good on turns where you're not striding and you don't necessarily have limit break. It's really good in the early game, pressuring with Stellar Magus. So I feel like Circle Magus still has a purpose in here. And then 1 Octagon Magus. This is like a defensive style card. So only 1 because honestly it's probably not really all that necessary. But I'm just testing it out because it's a new card. So it's like having essentially a pseudo Quintet Wall type of card. Kind of like Guinevere in Liberators. So basically when it's placed on Guardian Circle, if you have a Magus Vanguard, you can declare the top card of the deck. If you call it right, she gets plus 10k shield. So she can be like a 15k shield, which is surprisingly good in a mirror match against Silent Tom. And then the last grade 1 is just 1 Rippus Magus, returning from before. She's the 10k grade 1 attacker for Magus. So potentially I would probably, I don't know, maybe not run Octagon and just run 2 Rippus. Or I can just not run either one of them, run 4 of this, and maybe 3 Circle. So you can play around with it. It's nice when you have access to all the cards so that you can play test a lot of different builds, or even change it up sometimes, because honestly with Magus playstyle, the lineup can be very diverse. For the trigger lineup, this is my only OTT deck that is running the draw triggers. So I'm running 4 Triangle Magus, mainly because it's a new card. You can run 12 critical. 12 critical definitely will work just fine in here. This just helps you have a bigger hand, especially in a mirror match. And then you can kind of like cheese the opponent out because of all your like top decking cards ahead of time. So draw triggers are fine in here for that reason. And then 4 Parsley Magus. She's the Magus critical trigger. You have to run this. Came out like I think almost a year ago. Came out in set 1. 4 Psychic Bird, the best critical trigger for OTT. Then 4 Losange Magus, the Magus heal, best heal trigger for OTT. So 4 draw, 8 critical, 4 heal. I may eventually like change it back to 12 critical. I think that'll be fine. But again, Pentagonal gains critical very easily. So, and the stride, you know, you'll stride whatever. So, and the start is Semi-Lunar Magus, because it is a really good starter, and it's better than using Eclair or Losange. So, Semi-Lunar Magus is an interesting card. So you basically trade her boost for drawing 2 cards. So basically 2+1. So yeah. That's the main deck. For the strides, I am running one Who Views the Planet Globe Magus. She's usually always going to be your first stride, maybe your first and third stride, or first and second stride. But this is the main reason why we play 2 of her, is because you still will find situations where you need to stride other units, other OTT Vanguards, and I feel like 2 is enough, because you will eventually just be trying to close the game out with pentagonal skill. So 2 Globe, and then 4 Take Mikazuchi, because like I said, if you want to gain cards to the hand, this just having 4 of him allows you to stride him twice, and having 2 of her allows you to stride her twice. So there's that, and then the final stride, of course, is just the 2 Kame Susano, or Kamu Susano, just because he sometimes functions as an okay second stride, but usually I don't know, it depends. If you have a lot of counterblasts, because you are not guessing Stellar correctly or something, then you can go into him, but usually I go into this guy. So usually I'll stride Globe like 1 time, maybe 2 times, it depends on how the setup is or how the match has been going. If my hand is big, I'll stride her twice. If my hand is not so great after the first stride, I'll stride into him. Or if it depends on who my opponent is, I may just go into this guy second. So I like the diversity of the deck compared to the other OTT decks. I feel like this one has the most ways to play around the opponent's style or the opponent's deck. So I feel like it has a more competitive edge because of that. So anyway, guys, that was my OTT Magus deck. Right now, I think it's my favorite Magus deck, or my favorite OTT deck out of all the ones I have built. So let me know in the comments what you guys suggest changing. Probably the only thing I'll do at some point is I'll probably drop the 2 Cooler Magus for 2 Silent Toms or something like that. So anyway, hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks.